Okay, plain and simple. Could you guys tell me the story of how the two of you, as well as your children, decided to leave your home in Mexico City to come to Canada?
The decision started with me when I was 13. I came to Ottawa to study English for a month. And as soon as I came back, I wanted to move to Canada. My parents were not convinced. So I just had to hold on until I grew up and became an adult and did that thing myself. Um, I knew I had to have a university degree. Uh, by the time I decided to go to university, I was also looking into something that could be applicable to moving to Canada. So things like being a lawyer uh, was discarded because I didn't want to move to Canada and then restart everything all over again. So I ended up studying applied mathematics, which was universal. Um, I started dating Claudia when I was in university. Then I started a job. We got married. Um, and when I applied for the permanent residence at the time, the point system required that I had 3 years of experience. So I had to wait a little bit longer to accumulate those years of experience, accumulate the savings to come home
I had to get
to
my
come.
degree.
Oh yeah, so getting the bachelor's degree for Claudia would help with the points as well. Um, and all the process of getting the points with English, getting the points with the savings, with experience, all of that. So it took about after I finished university, it took about 3-4 years, and we had one kid at the time. Then Claudia didn't want to come because she didn't want to leave her family. That was the main reason. So there wasn't really anything that would convince her except coming to visit or coming to see it for herself. So we came to Canada for 1 week. We came to Vancouver and Calgary. And after just 3 days, she wanted to stay here even
Yeah.
legally.
And like I said, you know what? Just bring him here. Like, let's
So,
just stay.
so I didn't want to go to start with the wrong foot moving to Canada. So no, okay. So
Yeah.
she's convinced. So went back and started doing all the paperwork. Get her bachelor's degree. Started saving like crazy. I was saving probably about 50% of my income. Uh, and yeah, so 2 kids later, we got the acceptance. She was pregnant with the third kid, and we were like, oh, do we go and have the baby there? But we didn't know anybody. I had
Mm-mm.
to quit my job and start looking for something. Okay, we decided to hold on. The third baby was born, and then I just submitted more paperwork, got his passport, and all of that, and get a permanent residence for him as well. We got reaccepted, and then we we moved here. So it was, long story short, it was me deciding it at 13 after living here for a month that it was way better than living in Mexico.
Mhm.
And for her, it was living here for 3 days. And then yeah, we have to go there.
Yeah. Like the idea was, since we had kids, it was like getting out of Mexico City for sure, because it was not safe at all. But we were looking for some possibilities, and Canada was like not one of them, at least for me, because you have all those ideas like, oh, it's always cold, and like people are too cold, and I didn't speak English like very well in that time, and I was like,
At
there's no
all.
way. Well, I spoke a little bit. I was
Just the,
learning
the
just
numbers.
the basics. Don't be rude, just the basics. But honestly, just after being here and seeing all the freedom, the quality of life, everything, like, yeah, I was completely convinced. I love it. Best decision ever.
Awesome. Now, you said that you weren't originally convinced that, Canada was the place to move to. What were the other kind of countries that you thought maybe there was a possibility of you guys moving to?
Well, for me, it wasn't actually any country at all. For me, the options were kind of like other parts of Mexico, maybe the north of Mexico, like Morelia, those kind of, because they were a little bit safer.
At the time.
At the time, not anymore. But just I've never been like I never went anywhere like out of Mexico, so I had no idea. And so when he told me about Canada, I was like, "There's no way, like that's not happening." So he convinced me, like, "Okay, let's take a look. If you don't like it, we'll find somewhere else. We can even think about Morelia, the north, or any other state, or another city." But no, I just loved it.
I was more open to moving somewhere else. Like I was considering Australia, Canada, some part in Europe. Um, could have been Iceland or the UK. I consider Chile and South America as well. Um, it was at the time around early 2000s. It was booming and growing incredibly in as an example in Latin America. So that I was considering that as well. But really, the first option, the most desirable option for me was Canada. So I'm glad that was the one that ended up being the one.
Perfect. Now, you mentioned that you went to school in Ottawa, and then in your second trip back to Canada, you visited both Vancouver and Calgary. And while they're all a part of Canada, there are very different lifestyles between the three different cities. Now, why was Calgary the final destination for your family, and why did it beat out other cities like Vancouver and Ottawa?
So it wasn't so much the city of Ottawa. It was more like the culture, the way society works in Canada that attracted me, not so much the city. That's just the place where I ended up studying English. But while I was there for a month, I also visited Niagara, Toronto, Montreal, and Quebec City. So I had a very, very good opportunity to see a few places. When Claudia and I came, I decided to go to the west side of Canada. That's why we came to Vancouver and Calgary. And then I mean, it was the same thing, like the way people are, the way society works. For me, one of the biggest thing was the difference in mentality and how it applies to so many things of you're innocent and then proven guilty. The trust that comes with it was a big an extremely shocking difference between Canada and Mexico. In Mexico, you start by distrusting everybody. Mm-hmm. You don't trust the cops, you don't trust the government, you don't trust the mechanic you bring the car to, or the person that takes your car at the valet parking. You don't trust your employer, you don't trust the co-workers, things like that, until they prove that you can actually trust them. And here it's the opposite. So I like that a lot, and I saw that everywhere. The reason we chose Calgary was because
a good mathematician.
I started doing an analysis of all the different things in the main cities in Canada, in terms of economics, job opportunities, education, availability to have services like a family doctor,
safety,
university, safety, even things like
natural disasters.
Natural disasters. So I didn't want to be in the coasts, for example. I didn't like the weather in Vancouver, or how rainy and gray it can be. And Calgary, again, at the time in the early 2000s, it was booming. The migration within Canada, people moving from other parts of the country into Calgary, was exploding. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, I mean, I don't know Calgary very well, but if all these people that live in Canada are moving into Calgary, it's growing so quickly, and in an organized way. I would say in a much better organized way, like, for example, Mexico City or Toronto. The way it exploded, it's just out of control. So yeah, all those things added up to to the point where I had no idea Calgary existed. Like the name popped up because the numbers made it pop
You were
up.
like, what is Calgary? Alberta, like,
Yeah, I had never
what's
heard
going
of
on in
Calgary.
there? Like, it was just
So-
weird.
And do you guys still go home to visit your family from time to time?
Since 2018 or 19.
We just went to, I used to go to visit my mom, like at least once a year, or, well, no, once a year, every 2 years. Sometimes, well, first I didn't see her in Mexico City. We used to meet in Puerto Vallarta or another beach because for me, Mexico City is not safe. So we'll try to avoid it going there. And another time, because my brother-in-law got married, so we went to the wedding with we went all of us, but that was 1 year after we came to Canada. And another time I took 2 of my kids to visit my mom in Mexico. Other than that, we try not to go there because it's just not safe.
We go to the beach like Puerto
Yeah.
Vallarta or Mazatlan,
Mazatlan.
and then some of them will go there. Like this time, in just a couple of weeks, we're going to Mazatlan, and my mom, my brother, and his family, they're going to Mazatlan, and we're going to spend some time there.
Yeah.
So we have been there. We just try to avoid Mexico City as much as possible.
What has been your greatest challenge in the move to Calgary?
Okay, I'll go with that one first. He just, like, for him, he was very exciting. You can tell since he was 13 years old. But for me, like, as I said before, I've never moved anywhere else, not even traveling to the United States. I think we just went once to the United States. And just coming to a place where all the culture is different, when everybody speaks a different language, it was very challenging coming with kids who didn't speak English either. And living on, like, I used to be very close to my mom, like seeing her every day. Like I was very attached to my family. So coming here and not knowing anybody, not having anybody was very hard. So that's why I always tell people when they come, because and I say I'm gonna be honest. It was one of the, not the worst, but it was really, really hard the first year. Like my kids and I were like crying, missing family, like feeling like homesick. It was very, very hard. And it's just, but after that, it took only 1 year, I think, being here when we felt Calgary as our home. When we went to my brother-in-law's wedding, I thought my kids were going to be very excited because they were talking about Mexico and family. I think it was 2 or 3 days after, they're starting like, I want to go home. I want to go back home. That was Canada. So Canada was their home now. So it was just the first year. It was really, especially the first winter. The first day is very exciting, the snow, and 2 days after, you're like, I hate this. That was very hard because
And according to other people in Calgary, the winter of 2008 was the worst in the last 10 years.
It was really cold. Like it was, and people say, I'm sorry, this is not normal. This is out of normal. Like, but why when we came? it was not fun. Like it was really stressful and kind of depressing. So yeah, it was really, really hard.
If you could go back, what advice would you give yourself in the first week of being in Calgary?
I think if I could talk to myself, I would say it will get better. Like just give hope. Like it's hard, but you will go through it and it will get better, and you will never regret this. Like it was a good decision because in the beginning, you start doubting, right? Like maybe I did the wrong thing. Maybe I shouldn't have come. Maybe I'm not ready for this. Maybe like it's very, at least for me, it was very overwhelming. But if I would have someone that has been here, you know what, it's hard in the beginning, but you will go through it, and maybe having like a community of people or friends or something like that will be very helpful. But I just had my neighbor, which didn't speak Spanish, so we were just trying to communicate the best we could, it was hard, and I was pregnant, and it was just, I didn't enjoy the first year here, to be honest. I didn't like it. I needed more support, like emotional, literally emotional support.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I planned it for a very, very long time. I knew what I was getting into. I mean, I was very, very fortunate to have it. Um, everything fell into place almost exactly the way I planned it, and almost exactly the way I had wished it happened. So no, I was very fortunate that it happened that way. So I don't think I need to go back and tell myself anything that I could have been better.
Okay. Now, I got two more questions for you guys, then I will get out of your hair. But my second last question is, what have been some surprises about your life in Calgary?
Surprises here, good or bad?
Either, yep.
I think I had more good surprises. Like if you remove the first year, but I was pregnant, so hormones were not helping either. I just it just amazed me the life people have here. Like I was very stressed with my kids back in Mexico about their safety. Like I've been telling people, it's hard to believe, but when we used to go to Walmart, whatever, we used to put kind of like like they're not leashes, but kind of, I used to have my kids attached to me, literally attached. Like we had like a cord, kind of like like the dogs. I'm sorry, but that was the truth. So and like never taking my eyes from them, right? Like I was very paranoid because there were some people like trying to kidnap one of our neighbors. Like there was so much going on back in Mexico. So I was kind of paranoid when I came here. I was like, why are you getting too close to me? What are you? And then when I came here and I was walking, which I was very stressed. I usually don't walk by myself. I saw the schools and there was no fences. Like, oh my God, like somebody can like kidnap the kids. Like they're not safe, right? And I see the kids like running and kids walking alone and like, what's wrong with these parents? Like I was literally in shock. Like I couldn't believe it. Like, how come they don't have a fence? Like my kids, when we were in Mexico, they used to go to a private school, and to pick him up, I need to go literally on the car. They have to know my number plates, my car plates, and then if it wasn't me, I need to say my mom is gonna go. Is this car, these plates, like blah blah blah. Like she would have to show the ID, and literally I will just open the door. One guy will just carry my kid from the door and put him on my car, and let's drive away. Like or like it was very paranoid. Like I will never be by myself, like walking on the street with my kids. Like I tried and I got so stressed. So being here and kids walking and the school's open and everybody's saying hi, like why are they saying hi to me? Like what do they want? Like they're gonna do something? Like I was really sketchy. Like for me it was too sketchy. Like, well, what do you want? It was very paranoid. And but just being here, I told my husband, like, I want to do something I haven't done in years. And it was walking at night one of them by myself without being so freaked out. And I didn't take the bus in Mexico. So I was just taking the public transit, and I was so excited because I knew I wasn't gonna get killed. So it's that honestly, that's the thing that amazed me the most. Like the safety that we have here. Like we used to have like alarms. I couldn't like, and in our house we had like an alarm and locks and always like, what is that noise? And it was very, very stressful for me being there, like literally, and being here and like my kids, like of course, like things happen. It's not the best. Like we're not out of the woods, but it's not even close to what's happening in Mexico. Like not even close. So here, knowing that my kids are safe, there's nothing that like I don't care if it's -50 outside. Like we can embrace it. I don't care, right? But that was the best one. And another one, because I need to tell this because I want to make you laugh. My husband, my beautiful husband, so like before we came, he said, you know what? If it's too cold, don't cry, because if you cry, your eyelashes are gonna fall and break. So I was pregnant, like a -40 outside, waiting for the school bus for my son. And I was like, it's so cold. Like, oh my God, what am I doing here? I should have stayed. And I wanted to cry, but don't cry. You're gonna lose your eyelashes. And I was fighting with myself because I was so scared, and it was a joke. Well, I don't know. I don't know if it was a joke or not, but I was so stressed about my eyelashes and the cold. It was awful. that I honestly I love Calgary, and it's funny because I hear my friends, like most of my friends, I've been here like since forever, and they sometimes complain, oh, just the safety, oh no, like the medical system, oh the health system, oh the like whatever, like you need to be somewhere else to really appreciate what you have here. I think you're taking it for granted because what we had before and what we have now, like this for me, this is the best place. Like I love it. And I, even when I went back to Mexico, I don't feel like I belong in Mexico anymore. Like this is my home. So I just love it.